请收看《唯心世界义工利人天》。
天是天心爱，爱尊者土足礼，无三如来生门开。
Well, as Michael told you, we had a big lunch, so please forgive me if I fall asleep. But I'll try and stay awake, and you can feel free to fall asleep. I will understand. So I want to talk about new religions and the very wide range of perceptions they have over three main concepts. That's the body, health, and healing. And it's an enormous subject. And I could go on till supper time or even lunch tomorrow, but I'm going to let you off. But I just want to try and explain or suggest the enormous variety of ways in which these three concepts can be seen. Right, to start with the first of the three concepts that I want to talk about, that's the body. This can be seen in a vast number of different ways. Some people, like the New Age, for example, celebrate the body as a temple, and they think that it should be worshipped or revered and certainly not abused. It's something very special in which they can enter and meet the divine or be spiritual. Others will see it as an organism, and for this they respect it, and they've got to understand the system, try and remedy any mistakes that come up in any sort of way, and they see it very much in a holistic sense. And then thirdly, you have people who might see the body as more of a machine, and you've got to mend it when and where it's needed. The correct bits aren't working, so you look at that particular bit and see how it's gone wrong. Now, a lot of these can overlap. And then there's also the attitude, I am not my body. For example, the Hare Krishna, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, talk about not being their body. It's just some sort of temporary clothing. They've got to look after it, and they're very careful about not abusing it in any way, but it isn't ultimately important. Then the second concept that I want to talk about is health. And health doesn't imply that something was wrong, necessarily. Keeping healthy is a sensible duty that one should perform. And prevention is important here, possibly more than cure. And you can try to be more healthy, even if you are perfectly healthy. It's something that sort of works in the positive direction. And you might have a healthy diet or exercise, do yoga, and have a healthy attitude. And then the third concept, healing. This is correcting something that is thought to be wrong. And this can be the physical body, or it can be psychological, or spiritual, or relational. You're not getting on with other people. You just lost your boyfriend and you want to know if it's your fault or what have you. And you need healing from the trauma. And of course, all of these can be seen as interrelated or as separate. And definitions of healing vary enormously. Questions about how do you know if you've been healed? What counts as evidence? What were you like before and after? And often people will change. Perhaps they first thought that they'd been healed by some sort of miracle or because something had been done to them, but later they're not so sure and something went wrong. But they had some kind of experience of healing. And you can ask how consistent or inconsistent are the beliefs in healing. Potential causes of sickness as these are perceived. Psychological causes, trauma, rejection, fear, relationships, etc. Spiritual causes might be malevolent spirits, a jinn, karma, evil eye, a curse, or magic of some sort. Or physical causes. You've fallen over, somebody stabbed you. It's genetic, aging, poisoning, virus, all those sort of things. Here's a picture of a rather malevolent-looking jinn. Approaches to healing. You can have the Ayurvedic, which is Eastern practices very generally, holistic in its outlook, includes things like homeopathy, and sometimes called alternative or complementary, alternative to Western healing or complementary with Western healing. Chinese traditional medicine or Korean traditional medicine, they're not quite the same, but they overlap in lots of ways. Now, this is a picture of my legs. I'm having acupuncture in a hospital which is in Korea, and that's an old, long old tradition. But what's interesting here is that the hospital was run by a new religious movement, and there are electrodes attached, which is obviously rather modern. And you can ask, does it hurt more if there are electrodes attached? And I can say, yes, it does, badly. Reflexology is another possibility of an Eastern-inspired ideas about one part of the body affecting another part of the body, and you treat a different part of the body. You can have allopathic healing, Western medicine, chemicals, pills, chemotherapy, surgery. So there are lots of ways in which modern Western medicine is accepted or rejected in new religious movements. Harnessing some kind of power is something that is often used. Now, this might be by someone else, and you're just passive yourself. Reiki, which Rosita will be talking about. Assist is something that the Scientologists do when they sort of put their hands over your body. Reflexology, acupuncture, or the helper can do something so that they're activating the healing themselves in some way with the help of somebody else. Through auditing, that Scientology again, mindfulness, being led into past lives, regressing back to birth perhaps, rebirthing, different kinds of therapy. Or you might do something by yourself. It's up to you to do yoga, tai chi, qigong, all sorts of different things like that. Or perhaps just go to the health club. You might think that you should ingest certain things. These can be manufactured, chemical pills, or some holy water perhaps, holy salt, holy wine, holy wafers, holy oil. All of these are things that are used. COVID, you'll remember that Donald Trump suggested that you should drink chlorine. He said afterwards he was joking. Funny joke. Natural things being important to ingest. There's a great stress on that. Herbs or chemicals, the other extreme. Vegetarians and vegan, other things that you find in new religions. Ginseng, the Unification Church sells that, for example. Homeopathy. What's interesting is when the Hare Krishna came over to the West in the 60s, there was a lot of bad press about them, and this was to some extent largely because they were vegetarian, and it was thought to be very unhealthy because they wouldn't be having any proteins. Now, of course, it's thought to be healthy if you're a vegetarian, so things changed. A lot of movements make their own tea. For example, the Happy, Healthy, Holy Sikh Dharma have some lovely tea that they make. And then the other way around, not ingesting things. The Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, they won't take any blood in any form, transfusion. And this has given rise to a lot of debate, which no doubt you're privy to. Purification is something that comes up a lot, and this might be done through fasting. This might be one day a week, or it might be forever. The breatharians who said that they didn't eat and there was some deaths. And then there's been that unfortunate case in Kenya recently where so many people died in order to reach a higher heaven. Purging. The Scientologists, again, have a purification course. Sweat lodges after the Native Americans. Things and places are sometimes thought important. Crystals, for example, at exorbitant prices are sold to solve certain things. Sacred sites, churches or temples or mountains or what have you. Wearing amulets or a cross, St. Christopher that you see dangling in the front of a car very often. Fertility symbols. And then you have supernatural healing, where you invoke gods or the divine, and you get some healing perhaps directly from God through prayers or chanting or non-empirical supplications. You might want to appease the karma if you're in some Shinto new religious movement. And you might be asking how far is it prevention and how far it's cure as far as the supernatural healing goes. Other occasions, it's God using a human being, some other person than the person who's suffering or being healed, as a channel for healing. And you can ask questions then, and there are different answers given as to how the power is obtained. Does the healer inherit it? Or is it a special gift? Or is it just the divine is going through him or her? Shamans, exorcism. Here's a picture of a Catholic priest exorcising. Here are some evangelical Christians taking the devil out of somebody. This is a nice Sangoma whom I spent some time with in South Africa, who is sometimes called a witch doctor, but she was working with the South African National Health Service equivalent in healing people. Korean shamans, another example. This is not such a nice example. This gentleman, Mohan Singh, was sent to prison for 10 years. He's died since, but he was healing people through raping them. Language is used in very different ways in spiritual healing methods. In traditional therapy, very often words are seen to manipulate. You cast out a devil, you say, "Get out, devil," or something. And, or you say abracadabra and something magic happens. In modern medical parlance, however, it's just being purely descriptive. The words are just saying what you're referring to. There's no direct connection between the words themselves and the healing. And then more postmodern therapeutic new religions will see words as reality. You see this very much in the New Age again. You will say, "I am going to get rid of this cancer, I'm going to overcome it." And by saying that enough times, then you do become healed. Some issues about new religious movements that they have with mainstream society, and of course this differs. What's acceptable in one society certainly isn't in another. Chinese traditional medicine is seen with suspicion quite often in the West. Witch doctors, shamans, sangoma, prayer, faith healing rather than using medicine is, particularly in France, the new religious movements have suffered a lot there because of this. Vaccinations, mainstream religion wants to vaccinate you, but you might believe that this is wrong. And that's very obvious, the different religions during the COVID time. Blood transfusions with the Jehovah's Witnesses, I've already mentioned. Gay conversion therapy is something that's been quite a lot talked about in the West, and a lot of new religions have offered conversion if you happen to be homosexual. And there's been quite a lot of fuss about that. Harnessing power by self. This is a repeat, sorry. Don't know what's happened here. Helper, self. I've said that already. Yoga, and quite a lot of businesses employ new religions, transcendental meditation, even Scientology, will go into businesses to help them improve their success. Scientology, again, helping people come off drugs through their program of Narconon. Music therapy is something that's comparatively new, as I know several people from new religions who study this. Art therapy is used quite a lot as well. There are a lot of dichotomies and things that go together and other things that stay apart. We got a good list this morning from Leva Combe, but here are some other ones which slightly overlap with some of hers. Healing and health, healing and sickness, Ayurvedic and allopathic medicines, internal, external healing, spiritual or physical, cause or symptom. Do you just treat the symptom, or do you get down to the root cause? Holistic or particularistic. Language is manipulation, creation, or description, as I've just said. Body, mind, spirit. Alternative, Eastern to some extent, complementary between that and the medical Western. Won't move. Had enough. Oh, here we go. Yep. So to conclude, many new religions have, as part of their beliefs and practices, understandings of the body, health, and healing that frequently differ from those of mainstream conventional wisdom. They also differ vastly from each other. With increasing globalization, ideas and practices from different geographical regions have been adopted through trade, missionary activities, military conquests, and more recently by means of the mass media. In the 19th and 20th century, Western science was taken to the East Asia, and here we find both traditional medicine and Western medicine being found together. In the hospital I was in Korea, where I showed you the pictures of the acupuncture, there was actually one section of it was traditional religion and the other was Western. There was a clear divide. Since the late 19th century, and more particularly since World War II, Westerners have been incorporating Eastern ideas and practices into some of their new religions and spiritualities. And just to finish, I was asking one longtime member of Daisun Chiliwei why he had stayed in it and what he found attractive about the movement. And he told me that it was because it was Korean, and Korean history went back 5,000 years. And we've had quite a long email correspondence since, and he advised me to read this book, The Geography of Thought by Richard Nisbet, which is subtitled How Asians and Westerners Think Differently. And he picks up what a lot of us have been picking up with the sort of Eastern ideas in the new religions. But he starts from making a distinction between Aristotle's thought in Greece and Confucian thought in the West, and says that we still see that the West thinks in Aristotelian terms, whereas the East more in Confucian. So there are sort of dichotomous distinctions between community being important as opposed to the individual, relationship, cause, the largest whole as opposed to the smallest unit, system or part. Westerners asking how something happens, whereas the Easterners more why something happens, understanding, explanation. And so there are a whole lot of differences. I was going to finish here, but this morning I was talking to Julie, and she was talking about what her job is, and she and her parents have an organization which actually imports herbal medicines and oils in a sort of powder form from the West. And so in America, they are producing what are traditional healing methods of the East and then exporting it to Taiwan. So I think this makes my point even better than I was going to before I heard this from Julie. I think it might be possible that Aristotle and Confucius are increasingly talking to each other. And this is shown, I think, in studying some of the practices and beliefs in new religious movements. Xie.
All right, so we're going to hold questions until the end, and each speaker is going to get 25 minutes. So we have two more. The next one up is Tuan Em, my good friend and colleague and teacher in a way as well. He is a practitioner of Cao Dai, but also a scholar. He's a PhD candidate here in Taiwan, and he's going to talk about Taoist concepts in Cao Dai.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces again. And basically, these are our familiar faces for the past few years. But when again, actually seeing too many gurus in the area of religious studies and also, might be a little bit stressed and pressure. Anyway. Okay, the topic of my presentation today is the Taoist concepts of body, mind, and soul in the Vietnamese Cao Dai religion from theory to practice. And these are some basic information about myself, and my name is M, just like the English alphabet, M. And one of the things I like about the Taiwanese people is that they try to translate all of the foreign names into Chinese. So that's why I have another name in Chinese also. And right now I'm doing my first year PhD student, a course at the University of Zhengzhi Daxue, the Zhengzhi. And I'm also honored to see my professor over here, over there. All right. Now I'm going to get to the point of my presentation right here because I want to show you another aspect of how Taoism was, applied by the Vietnamese Cao Dai people. And then this is the structure of my presentation. I'm going to go through four main parts. So the first one, I'm going to show you some Taoist elements in Cao Dai religion. And then I'm going to give some very short and general concepts of body and mind and soul, in the way that the Cao Dai people interpret this type of Taoist concept. And then I'm going to show you how the Cao Dai people will apply body, mind, and soul in reality before I go on to the conclusion.